Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's 7 p.m. It's Wednesday, and I'm back in Speyside for another Whisky Wednesday. Hi, folks. Dean Jode, Head of Whisky Creations for Murray McDavid. And yes, we made it through until another Whisky Wednesday. It's been a few weeks, I think, since we last spoke. We would have hosted the Whisky Club tasting just a couple of weeks ago, featuring our brand new range of UK exclusives. And what a tasting that was! That was very cool. Very cool to see the range of feedback from the three new single cask bottlings for the UK. As I always select for these bottlings, always pick a relatively traditional, enjoyable, delicious dram. There'll always be a PT contender in there. So we went for a very, very richly influenced Kehlila, influenced from a first fill Madeira wine barrique. That was just bottled at 5 years of age. It actually spent 4 years in that wine barrique. Quite a hefty level of integration from that wine cask into that lovely rich peated malt. And then there's always a wild card, something to, it's a dram to really inspire conversation, debate and chat about the whiskey as you're hopefully sharing it amongst friends and loved ones. It's the 7-year-old Blair Athol that had spent around 4 years in a first fill tawny port cask. Really quite a stunning dram that, and it was the dram that split the room in the evening, as I had kind of expected, because by no way means is it a traditional style of whiskey. That's why we bottled the 14-year-old Glen Tockers from that lovely first fill Oloroso sherry cask. That's the traditional style of lovely whiskey. But the weird, the wonderful, the delightful 7-year-old Blair Athol certainly got the tongues wagging, which was fantastic. Anyway, I am making myself a little bit thirsty with all of that talk about whiskey. So I'm going to invite you to join me in pouring yourself a whiskey at home, if you haven't already. I'm sure some of you have had weeks that demand you already open a bottle. Maybe it was the news from the world of finance today that inspired that first dram of the evening. But we won't depress everyone and get on into all of that nonsense. So I've poured myself one of our latest offerings from the Caskcraft range. And a Whisky Wednesday is a perfect time to sample and enjoy whiskies from the Caskcraft range, because we're dealing with whiskies that are midweek appropriate, let's say. This whiskey here, as of all of the whiskies bottled in the Caskcraft range, we're bottling at 44.5%. A nice, gentle, easy, approachable strength that you can sip along during the week, during doing your homework or helping your kids do their homework. Yeah, easy sipping dram to go along without any disruption or any disruption to the week, essentially. Good, easy sipping whiskey. The Ben Rinnes here. Now, we've paired the Ben Rinnes spirit with the port casks. As you can see, the port finish here is occupying that area of the flavour map, which is rich and fruity. So we are we're on the richer end of the spectrum of the flavour map. You know, we'll have the Madeira finish, which will be, you know, fruity and sweet. The bourbon, creamy and sweet. You know, we've had sherry additions, which are fruity and spicy, and peated additions. The peated finish, actually, that was citrus and smoke on the first batch. But the Benrinnes here, certainly with that richer style of malt, and that richer style of malt allows us to be, let's say, a little bit more forceful, a little bit more expressive with the cask maturation techniques here. And I can tell you, actually, batch number 1 of the Benrinnes port finish is actually, it's all 100% matured in first fill port casks, which give you that really wonderful, well, you get that creamy depth from that Benrinnes malt. But those floral fruity notes sing on top of the whiskey there, and then integrates really nicely with a chocolatey maltiness. That chocolatey maltiness I associate with that integration of port cask with that lovely Speyside malt from Benrinnes. Nice biscuity style. Sweetness there as well, as I say. Underlying richness of the malt, rich and fruity, lovely. Oh, toasty, malty, fruity. Because it's quite oily, it sits nicely on the palate. And we're continuing with that malty fruitiness. Lovely, easy sipper for the midweek. And yeah, the Cask Craft range is exactly designed to be that table whiskey, as it were. You know, these are whiskies that are priced accordingly to those events, situations where you might have friends around, and you know, you might be going to a party barbecue. Perfect choice, because the malts going into these, you know, these are rarely single malts that you'll see on supermarket shelves. You know, they won't be from distilleries that will be celebrating their spirit in their own brands. It'll generally be spirits that go into blends. So it'll be, you know, a good selection to take along to an event of a whiskey buff, because it will be possibly a single malt that is quite surprising of origin. And when you start to converse and introduce to the conversation the cask finishing, then you've got a very interesting proposition. And just to help you out on the shelves, I really love the way that I've been on about this a few times, but I'm really enjoying the style of presentation of information on the back label. You know, it's not just marketing guff that you see on, let's say, some more creative bottlings. This is very much straight to the point. This is the spirit that we're using. This is the spirit that we're using. This is the cask. Those are the flavors that you can expect from the spirit. Those are the flavors that you can expect from the cask. And in summary, this is the result. And that's what the Cask Craft is all about, is to show you guys at home the effects and influences of cask whiskey maturation in a very clear and concise way. And, you know, we reflect that in the spirit as well, because what we have in the bottle is natural color. All of that is coming from those port casks. So yeah, wonderful second batch of our port finish in the Cask Craft. If any of you are sampling Cask Craft at home tonight, big points to you guys. Maybe we need to introduce that going forwards for future Whisky Wednesdays. Maybe I could get a virtual t-shirt gun or something that I can pump out to you guys who are dramming along with Murray McDavid in your glasses. Let us know in the comments what you are drinking along with this evening. Always interested to hear what people are sipping on, whether it's something new that's just been launched, or whether it's a golden oldie from times gone by. Now, speaking of golden oldies, it's been quite the week up in Speyside with the bottling team. Tim at Danderleith. I mean, today he's probably just been engrossed in the cricket, which is great to be back on the TV. No spoilers, because I've been hard at work today. I've not seen any of the results. I hope we've bowled those Aussies out for at least 50. That'd be nice. But no, Tim's been at Danderleith over the past week or so, bottling some very, very special single malts. One of which was distilled in 1972, and the other in 1977. And those two single malts are for a very special project that Murray McDavid will be launching later this year. You can probably sense my slight anxiety with already potentially having already said too much. But no, fact of the matter is, Tim has completed bottling these whiskies, and yeah, we're just working on the how we launch them to the world, and that will mean marketing materials, photography, and press releases, and hopefully we'll have a nice launch event down in Edinburgh. All of this is to be confirmed, by the way. I'm literally just making the team's schedule of work, the events team's schedule of work for the next couple of months. But no, we're really looking forward to releasing those two very special single malts in the coming months, and it will be in a completely different look to what you will be accustomed to have seen from Murray McDavid. So super exciting. It's been a very long time coming, very, very long time developing the ideas, and of course a very long time maturing the whiskey. And it's quite funny. I had a similar feeling about seeing these casks go out of the warehouse to there was a 25-year-old Dal Ewan that we bottled for Aberdeen Whisky Shop earlier this year. It was earlier this year. And yeah, having been working in the warehouses at Colburn for nearly 9 years now, and some of these casks don't really move stow location too often. And that Dal Ewan, because it was in a Koval cask, it had a stow location of its own pretty much. So when these casks, these super rare casks, move to be bottled, it becomes very, very apparent as you walk through the warehouse. So it's bittersweet seeing these things roll out, but it's quite amazing to now see it come to fruition into actually a bottle of whiskey that hopefully gets shared and enjoyed and savoured. And that's the beauty, I guess, isn't it? Because another cask will take its place, and hopefully in another 9 years or longer, that will be those emotions will develop and be recycled, as it were. Crikey, getting deep on a Whisky Wednesday. Good Lord. Just going to refresh myself with some Danderleaf spring water, which we use for our reductions. Should we be reducing spirit at Danderleaf? We use for our whiskey tastings. Lovely, lovely, clean, fresh water. Delicious. So yes, we have these ultra rare whiskies coming later this year. You might just be able to see some whiskey sample tops here. I'm going to give you a little talk through these as I move my bottle of Cask Craft out of the way, because one of the projects that I'm working on this week, Steve, I'm enjoying samples received from friends. Oh, Highland Park Cask Strength, 63.6. Oh yeah, 63.3, sorry. It sounds like you might need a good supply of Dandelief still water there. Yeah, Highland Park, you know, I mean, we've just acquired some casks of Highland Park. Was it 17-year-old, I think, if I'm not going crazy. And yeah, it's still up in the mid 60s, you know, absolutely wild filling strengths. But undeniably delicious. I remember being in the room next door here with Edward, our managing director, and you know, we had just bought this stock. It had just been delivered to Colburn, so of course, keen as mustard to get a look and get assessing the spirit. And oh gosh, you know, I mean, some of these notorious, celebrated distilleries are that for a very good reason. You know, same as the Ardbeg as well, which you know, I mentioned that parcel of stock a little while ago. It's truly unique spirit. It is quite amazing, and there's not a lot of it to go around, so you know, we have to be very, very careful with that. So yeah, the likes of Highland Park, the likes of Ardbeg won't unfortunately be featured in the blending project that I'm working on this week. It's another special project. They're all special projects, of course, but it's this is half of what represents a new blend that I'm working on at the moment for actually ACO Spirits, Murray McDavid's sister brand stable, as it were. We've got 2 blends that need to be completed in terms of recipe in the next week. And well, this is kind of a year's work. This parcel here, as you can see, actually what will be a good example to show you, I'm going to firstly give you an insight into some of the realities of cask influence. This is one of the components that I'll be working with the blend. It's actually a single malt from Craigellachie Distillery, and as you can see, you know, it's actually it's not a million miles away from our lovely clear fresh Dandelief spring water, and it's actually 6 years old. So this has been maturing for 6 years in a industry standard hogsheads, ex-bourbon, as you would expect. Yeah, we got some of that youthful vegetal meaty style there. Potentially going to be a very helpful component, acting as the backbone of the blend. This is going to be quite rugged, quite hefty. Let me show you this as well. Now, this is actually a blend that I produced about 18 months ago, and this portion of the blend has been resting in ex-Islay casks. And age-wise, what are we? Just 6.5. So yeah, 6.5 years. Oh, sorry, 6.5 years in cask. The last year in ex-Caerleila casks. So you know, the ex-Caerleila cask doing a little bit of work there in terms of color. Now, these are both projects that we want to keep at natural color with the finished blend. So you can see already, I'm going to be struggling if those are the only components that I'm going to be using. Very, very, very mellow, sweet, appley peat on the nose of that blend there. Now, what's in the blend, I hear you ask at home? We've got 6 single malts in there, mostly from Speyside, with a little helping from Tirade. We've got the likes of Glen Spey, Glen Elgin, Strathmill, Benrinnes in there as well. So we've got a nice range of styles of malt that have been married in those ex-Islay casks for a year, and a slightly different proportion of blend. Now you can see on the left here, gonna have a, oh, Vic Cameron. Oh, you are showing off with some very exotic style of whiskey. You'll have to bring that round in the morning, sir. So you can see the sample here is a very similar blend in terms of malt, slightly different ratio, but actually here we're using second fill Madeira wine barriques. So we're starting to pick up the colour on there, but more importantly, oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. I mean, it's nowhere near as intense as what you may remember from our Spirit of Speyside bottling with that Manickmore, or I think recently, if you saw it, the Tirade that we bottled from Madeira. You know, those whiskies would have represented spirit maturation in first fill casks. This has been in second fill Madeira for just over a year. Just over a year. So you can see starting to build up color from the cask there. And this is, you know, something that we've been developing over the past maybe 4 years now. Being more, I think I've mentioned to you guys before, but being more consciously using second fill casks for various projects. Historically, we've never used second fill casks with the likes of the Benchmark, with the likes of the Mission Gold, because those were exclusively using first fill casks to finish those whiskies. With the invention of, or the addition of the Caskcraft range, we do bottle some whiskies that have been matured solely in first fill, but with introducing proportions of second fill casks in there as well, to, yes, bring a bit of balance between distillery character and cask, but also in reality to help us achieve that price point that we're so proud of that Caskcraft range. So as I say, second fill with the we've got that internally titled concept cask. Yeah, some in-house blends that we're working on for this project, which hopefully we'll be launching in around, oh gosh, I want to say September, but you know, we're already at the back end of July. I freaked myself out today. Re-racking some future stocks for, re-racking some spirit into finishing casks for a little bit of a bolster parcel to go into a Caskcraft range, and yeah, you know, allocated these casks for 2025, which you know, it soon dawned upon me that's actually only about 18 months away. Which yeah, that slightly exploded my brain for a Wednesday afternoon. The week is clearly been too much for me already. But anyway, one of the core components of one of these blends, and it plays into the story of the blend. Now, the blends that we are creating aren't blends for the sake of blends. You know, we've got nice authentic stories as to why we're producing these blends. And, you know, the taste profile will kind of be dictated around those narratives, those stories, and inspired by, one of them certainly inspired by a true legend of the whiskey industry, not just whiskey industry actually, quite an important figure in the history of Scotland. And one of the core components, I'm saying way too much, I can feel it coming back to me tomorrow morning. I'm going to come into an email, I know it. So we're going to go back to the second fill Madeira cask, and we're going to take a look at this, which we're taking a little step darker with the use of first fill Oloroso. And that is a single malt from Dal Ewan Distillery, just 6 years of age, coming up to 7 actually. It'll be 7 this time next month. So yeah, one of the blends that we're working on is a non-age statement, and the other is a 12-year-old blended Scotch, which I'm very, very excited about making a non-age statement blend, because it gives us complete freedom, flexibility around stock control. You know, you can imagine, you know, only purchasing X amount of 12-year-old single malt or 12-year-old blend a year. That limits us into the capabilities of achieving a consistent product. Whereas if we're creating a non-age statement product where we can use, you know, different ages within different reasons, of course, that's age, you know, is always going to be a factor of, you know, the resulting price point. So, you know, we need to keep into the realities there, but creating a non-age statement product can help us achieve a consistent product on a larger volume with the stocks that we have, if that makes sense. I promise I've not had too many coffees today. I'm just excited to be back talking to you guys. And a little bit of razzle dazzle as well. We've got some, I should say the Dal Ewan there had just been in first fill Oloroso for just over a year, whereas the Linkwood, that's actually been in there for nearly 3 years. So we've got a lovely, rich, this is, you know, what you would expect from a, you know, maybe a Murray McDavid benchmark bottling, deep, rich color. Not to say this whiskey isn't any decent, being finished in there for just a year. It's all about different levels of flavor and how we bring those together. This is the big concentration of flavor, whereas here with the young Dal Ewan, yes, we're going to get a lot of those bright, appley, malty notes from that spirit, but also some lovely, lovely kind of toffee, popcorny notes from the Oloroso. Really lovely, really lovely. The peated, I'll be interested to see how that performs in the glass, because like the if you ever tried the peated finish in the Cask Craft range, that was in batch number 1. Beautiful Glenelgin spirit, and that had been finished for a year in ex-peated casks, or casks that had previously held peated spirit, I should say. And on the nose, very, very mellow, very, very mellow. I can see how some people would have, you know, sampled that, because we did have it on a few festival tables, and you know, of course, people reading the label, seeing peated finish, they would naturally come to that whiskey last. But actually, it's one of the ones that you should start with because it's so delicate. It's not a peat bomb. It's not a peat monster. You know, it just displays from the cask just a gentle kiss of that peat onto the spirit, onto that lovely light, sweet citrusy spirit. Really cool. We're going to have another peated finish in the Cask Craft range next year. Really looking forward to that. But I'm really looking forward to exploring how we get that ever so lightly peated style of spirit to shine through some of the you know, some of the heavier styles of cask finishing. How's it going to hold up against the heavy, meaty single malt from Craig Alecki? And yeah, that's I guess I'll be revealing more next week on the Caskcraft range there. Good Lord. So I realise that I've gone off on a bit of a blending tirade this week, but I'm very much in the mood. I'm in the mood for mixing. In the mood for mixing. I'll probably stick on the cricket highlights and yeah, get a little bit experimental with what we've got in front of us tonight. Anybody else at home blend? No, you can't be blending on a Wednesday evening, surely. Just drinking exotic drams, eh, Vic? Oh dear. So I think, ladies and gents, I'm going to leave you on that note, that thought of mixing. If you do want to get mixing over the weekend, do give it a go, because blending is great fun. You know, so many different flavor components here. You know, a lot of people use the analogy of you know, an orchestra with all the different notes and all the different potential compositions. It is very much that. It can be a racket, it can be an absolute racket, but it's very rewarding when you know, all kind of flows together and starts to make a bit of sense and balances. That's the thing. That's the thing. So yeah, if you're at a loose end this weekend, if you're not off to see the new Barbie film, if you're not off to see Oppenheimer, if you do it in the same day, you have to leave us a message in the Murray McDavid Whiskey Club group. And even extra points. We might even have to send you something if you sneak a little bit of Murray McDavid into a cinema. I'm not sure what I'm getting people into there, so I apologize. I realized as soon as it came out, it was too late. But no, if you're off to see Barbie or Oppenheimer this weekend, leave a message in the group. I'd love to know your thoughts. Our team have been talking about it for a little while, so I'm not too sure which I'm swaying just yet. I might just have to flip a coin. Yeah, Vic, Oppenheimer Friday night. Okay, Oppenheimer Friday night and Barbie on the Saturday for Vic, I reckon. Stockport Whisky Festival. Good Lord. Good Lord, Stockport Whisky Festival. I'm going to have to write that down because that is definitely one that I've not attended before, and I've heard good things. Or maybe Southport. Oh God. I'm so glad Steve's not in charge of the itinerary this weekend. Either way, I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at both of those just so we've got a cross reference. Olivia, Barbie on Saturday, of course. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they're going to be great in different ways. I'll actually, in reality, be blending and watching the cricket. So, ladies and gents, we are reaching the 35-minute mark. So, apologies for keeping you a little bit longer tonight, but it's been enjoyable chatting to you about the blends that we're working on, the future projects that will be bottled in the coming weeks and months for the blends, certainly. And yeah, if actually, I think the only plans that I have this weekend, if you're based in Inverness, or if you're in Inverness, well, actually, haircut over the weekend is due. But if you're in Inverness on Friday, I'm going to be over at the Malt Room. So I'll be over there talking to the guys about some of our products, hopefully getting some whiskies on the shelves, and hopefully getting a tasting booked in at some time. So if you're in Inverness, come along. I'll probably be there from about 2 o'clock, and I'll be easily persuaded to leave the car in Inverness. Let's just put it that way. So, ladies and gents, I'm off to watch the cricket. Enjoy your evening. All the best. Have a good weekend. Cheers.